how did you sell podcasting to this group?
Selling podcasting was not necessary. There are a lot of folks who are doing some things with audio. They may not consider it a traditional podcast, or I would say the biggest challenge is there's all kinds of people out there saying, we want to do a podcast, or let's do a podcast, but they're not doing the 80% of the work that needs to be done to make sure the podcast is successful, right? You know, it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of your time you develop the content, and 80% of the time you need to be focusing on telling people about that content and getting it out there. So it seems as though there are a fair number of folks who record a conversation and slap it up on a website and go, got that one. And they don't realize.
And they're just waiting for it to go viral on its own.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to spontaneously combust and all that.
Well, I definitely, shared the research statistic. There's a company called Libsyn, Liberated Syndication, and they host well over half of the podcasts in the world. And in the U.S., we're looking, or I guess, I don't know if that's a global number or a U.S. number, but there's like 440,000 podcasts out there. When I started my podcast in 2014, there were 220,000. So literally doubled in the last 4 or 5 years. But one of the things we talked about is that the folks that host all those podcasts, they do monthly numbers. And when they do their numbers, they throw out that top 1%, the people like Joe Rogan and the folks that have like 1 million downloads, Hardcore History. It's a 4-hour podcast about, I don't know, the Battle of the Bulge, believe it or not. And they get 1 million downloads when they flip but they only produce once, twice a year, right? And then they throw out all the podcasts that haven't published in about 3 months or so. And then they average it all up. And the average if you get between, and it varies plus or minus 5 to 10, but if you get 165 downloads of your podcast, you're doing better than half the podcasts out there.
What?
Yes.
Say that again. I don't believe.
So, no. As a matter of fact, I'll send you the stats. The podcast to listen to is called The Feed, and there's it's very long, and they talk about all the business of podcasting for people who are serious about podcasting, whether we're amateurs or not. But the median number of downloads is 165. So half the podcasts out there, excluding these highs and lows, half of them are getting less than 165 downloads an episode. And then they've got some other numbers, but since I'm happy with I'm better than half, I don't bother to go into it. But you literally, if you had something like 5,000 downloads an episode, you'd be in the top 10%. So folks who think, I'm going viral, don't worry about that. Think of the last time you were in a conference room and you had, or in an auditorium, and there were, 165 people there who were paying attention to you. Wouldn't that be cool? Why do you need 10,000 who are, not paying attention and whatever? The idea is that podcasting is a niche business for the most part. There aren't that many mass media podcasts. It is about finding your passion, finding something you're really intrigued by. So if I know for a fact that I have 200 people listening to me every time I drop a podcast, that's actually kind of scary. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate that. And so I feel very strongly about, giving them really good guests and taking the time to edit, taking the time to have good quality sound, and then promoting it to let them know it's out there, that kind of thing. So that's the part that when I talk to most of the podcasters, they just weren't really focusing on good quality audio. Like, I was talking to the guy on the phone. I can't listen to you. There's an internet radio on Saturday mornings you can listen to it. I just find the sound quality is just so awful. I can't stand it. So it is important that you spend some time developing the good quality sound to make it easier for people to listen. Like us.
Yes.